Hello and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Peter Counter and I am the editor-in-chief of FindBiometrics, which reported live from New York last week at the ISC East Security Conference. Our own Doug OGorden was on the exhibition floor speaking to the leading biometrics and identity vendors at the show, getting a read on the pulse of our dynamic and rapidly evolving industry. In this special episode of the ID Talk podcast, OGorden speaks with Edison Shen, the Security Industry Association's newly appointed Director of Standards and Technology. Shen introduces himself and outlines the standards-related challenges facing the security industry before letting us in on his goals for SIA in 2022. It's a fascinating conversation about the importance of standards, so let's get straight to the interview. Here is FindBiometrics' Doug OGorden in conversation with Edison Shen, Director of Standards and Technology for SIA, recorded at ISC East.
Hi FindBiometrics listeners, Doug OGorden, Content and Media Strategy Manager. I'm here with Edison Shen, the new Director of Standards and Technology for SIA, Security Industry Association. We're live at ISC East in New York at Edison's show. And Edison, how are you?
Doing good, Doug. How are you doing?
Good. Congrats on the new position, appointment.
Thank you.
And can you give us a little history or background on yourself?
Sure. So prior to my 4-day appointment at SIA, I started my standards career at the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute, AHRI, working in certification and standards. And then most recently at the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, NEMA, working on some standards development, more focused on international standards development and harmonization. And then prior to standards, I dabbled in intellectual property as a patent examiner and a patent analyst in my old life.
Nice. I see how all those things will work very well in the security industry, and your background in both those markets are a great fit. How do you think those experiences will help you move forward in the new security industry that you're in?
Sure. Well, you can hear that the singular theme is standards development. But if you step back a bit, there's a lot of overlap between the organizations. For example, AHRI is comfort cooling, and NEMA deals with electrical infrastructure all within the building. And so I have that experience for the building's perspective, right? And security coming into the access controls and video. And within each of those organizations, as well as SIA, there are specific pillars of the organization: standards development, certification, advocacy, education. And so I hope that my experiences working at my prior trade associations, working on managing a portfolio of certification programs at AHRI, and also working closely with government agencies on task orders for developing standards and harmonizing standards internationally will field some of the challenges and opportunities here at SIA.
Great. I do believe that, all your background is a perfect fit. What are some of the standards-related challenges you're currently facing in the security industry, and how will SIA be tackling them? Knowing that you've only been here 4 days, I don't know, that's a pretty hard question, but what's your response?
Sure. I think, again, there's a lot of similarities across different organizations when it comes to standards. Always the two biggest difficulties with any standards is education and adoption. Education deals specifically with educating end users, the public in general, manufacturers even, on the value of why that specific standard helps the industry. And it's important first to at least get the consensus, but once that consensus is reached, now we need to make sure that everyone's aware of that consensus, and that kind of flows into the second part, which is adoption, getting the end users to agree that that is the metric or the way that they want to evaluate performance or safety or requirements for their products. And also, more importantly, getting that written into specifications, requirements, whether that be, again, end users, building managers or operators, or even potentially government agencies, getting that written into their code.
Great. Last question. What are some of your goals for the position in 2022? What do you?
Sure. Yeah. So again, 4 days, but I have some things in mind.
If you have goals set already, that's amazing.
First one is a big part of my job is to promote OSDP. And I think you and I joked a little bit about what OSDP stands for. I think not a lot of folks know about it. It stands for Open Supervised Device Protocol. That's the standard that we're hoping to help bring forth the evolution of security in access control. I think a lot of folks are familiar with WAGAN, and that form of communication. There's a lot of advantages of using OSDP. I won't go into them now, but one of the ways is we want to educate the public on the security and the benefits of that. So that's goal number one. The second is forming standards development roadmap. With a dynamic industry like security, there's always new technologies coming forth, and we want to be able to bridge the gap between the technologies and how they can get integrated into the buildings and the systems. And the best way to do that is through standards development, writing standards so that the end users, anyone who sees it can do an apples to apples comparison either with existing technologies or with the new technologies that are coming forward. And then lastly is to develop relationships within SIA. I understand the value of relationships in any trade association. I got to attend actually an honors night, which was a privilege, and even just being here at ISC East was just a wonderful experience, just to dive in and meet a lot of the members, meet a lot of the end users, and really have that dialogue, but most importantly, develop those relationships so that in the future, anytime they have a question or they have a challenge, they won't hesitate to pick up the phone, give me a call, or reach out to me, come shake my hand. And that's one of the things I love about any trade association work, the relationships you build with the manufacturers, with the industry, with the end users.
Yeah, it's good. It's a great industry. You're going to love it. What's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody's listening to this and wants to know more about standards and technology?
Sure. So probably email is the best way. My email is eshen@securityindustries.org. And they could also reach out to me on my phone. It's 301-804-4709. I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn, so if anyone wants to connect, Edison Shen at Security Industries Association, they can reach out to me there. But yeah, any opportunity to, any questions, any suggestions, I'm always open and be happy to address any questions and field any problems and find a solution.
Great. Hey, thank you very much. This is your first SIA interview.
Yep.
I'm honored. Hey.
Well, pleasure, Doug.
Yeah, have a great show.
Thank you.
And so concludes our interview with Edison Shen, Director of Standards and Technology for SIA. For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, visit securityindustry.com. And for more live event coverage of ISC East, stay tuned to FindBiometrics.com. Thank you again to Edison for joining us on this episode, and thank you to Doug OGorden for conducting the interview. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk podcast.